So please join me in welcoming Nicola Brammer.
Thank you very much, Meg. I believe that some of the most impactful analytics doesn't come from statisticians doing better analysis. It comes from engineers, scientists, and operators making better decisions with data. Companies often assume that the impact of data analytics comes from hiring more statisticians or data scientists. But in manufacturing environments especially, the people who already understand the products and the processes are the ones who are often best positioned to turn data into action, if we give them the right skills, tools, and confidence. The analytics doesn't fail because the maths is wrong. It fails because it never reaches the point where decisions are made. Engineers and operators make decisions every single day, and at night when the rest of us have gone home, often under pressure with safety, quality, and throughput as critical metrics. Yet surprisingly often, these decisions are made without access to the data that really already exists. Sometimes the data isn't available at the time or place it's needed. Sometimes it's locked away in systems that aren't readily accessible. But very often, people just don't feel confident in interpreting it. The data exists, but the analysis feels owned by specialists. And now we're entering a new phase where organizations are being tempted not just to centralize that analytics, but to automate it entirely. AI can now generate analysis, summaries, and even recommendations in seconds. And that's powerful. It's not going to go away. But we shouldn't underestimate the risk if we allow AI to interpret data without process or product knowledge. AI doesn't know which sensors drift or fail, constraints on process parameters, where the process can even become unsafe, and what cannot be true, even if the data suggests it. AI is excellent at pattern recognition, but it's terrible at knowing whether a pattern makes sense. It can draw conclusions well beyond any reasonable inference space. And that's why I believe that training managers, engineers, scientists, and operators matters more in an AI world, not less. As analytics become easier to produce, judgment becomes a scarce skill. AI lowers the barriers to analysis, but it raises the importance of interpretation. And interpretation needs to lie with the people who understand the products and the processes, the physics and the chemistry, the constraints, and the real-world consequences if you get it wrong. We need to find a way to ensure that AI is used as an aid to data extraction and collation and to support thinking, but not to replace it. I spend a lot of my time training engineers, scientists, shop floor operators, but not so much in statistical theory. I'm not trying to turn people into statisticians, but I'm trying to help them think statistically. And that means asking better questions of the data, recognizing what is signal and what is just noise, understanding variability and what's normal, and knowing when to trust the analysis, but also when to challenge it. I focus on pragmatic decision-making, not mathematical perfection, where practical significance is far more important than statistical significance. And the emphasis is always on trying to move constantly in the direction of goodness, not waiting for a single big breakthrough. Data literacy needs to become a shared language, where analytics is a capability that everyone should have, not just a service that a few of us provide. Tools matter, but only if they reduce friction. At ScienceCo, we've concentrated on developing MES systems and data historians that bring context to the data by combining information from various sources, X's and Y's, inputs and outputs to the process, with intuitive dashboards that the operators can see on their consoles. Developing jump add-ins to automate data extraction and cleansing, and with embedded scripts that standardize how routine data is presented. These tools greatly reduce the amount of training required to produce graphs, and that allows us to concentrate on teaching people to interpret. Importantly, using JMP's graphical capabilities to actually see the data, because that visual exploration helps people connect patterns and brings real insight into our processes. However, our goal isn't just to make bigger and brighter charts. Our goal is for faster, more confident decisions, as close to the process, temporally and geographically, as possible. But the hardest part isn't training the engineers. It's what does and doesn't happen after class. How do you make statistical thinking part of everyday work, not just formal Six Sigma or engineering projects? How do you embed it into the way that all teams talk, review data, and solve problems? And this is where striving for a data-driven culture really matters. At ScienceCo, we're deliberately trying to engage all levels and functions of the organization in a range of different activities to create a cultural mindset. Some of the things that are working for us: interactive learn together sessions, using coding to create group exercises with dynamic scenarios that allow engineers and their managers to discuss realistic problems without the baggage of actual process issues. Using Google Spaces and MS Teams to celebrate wins, create a forum to ask questions, share learnings, and advertise learning opportunities, such as the excellent range of webinars and workshops that JMP runs. Short, targeted how-to videos designed for use at the moment of need. Small and large review sessions, including daily at the line reviews of live data. And troubleshooting guides that link signals in the data to known cause and effect relationships, with simple steps for operators to follow to bring the process back to target. But these aren't big and expensive initiatives, but they move analytics from something that people consume to something they use, to allow us to critically use tools such as AI to help us with that interpretation. In an industrial setting, analytics maturity shouldn't be measured by how many advanced models you have, but how many decisions are made confidently with data by the people who are closest to the process. When analysis becomes part of how everybody speaks in an organization and how they think, but not just something they consume, that's when we know we've made an impact. In a world of AI-generated insight, process understanding is what keeps that analytics honest. That's where the real value lies. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.